Most portable SSDs you've got in your bag right now top out at around 1,000 to 2,000 megabytes a second. This pocket-sized enclosure, 6,000, 6 times faster. And here's the part that surprised me. At the price of a single external SSD on the market right now, you can grab this enclosure and use any NVMe drive you want for a better price and faster speed. I spent a few weeks running this thing through my own real filmmaking workflow between shooting on my Komodo X, my Nikon ZR, dealing with raw playback, dealing with sustained transfer speeds, you name it, I put it through its paces. What's up? I'm Royce and welcome to my channel where I talk about all things film and tech. And if you've been shopping for storage in the last few months, you already know the SSD market is an absolute mess. I made a whole video about this a few weeks back where I break down why it's happening. In it, I look at some alternative purchases you can make that will help save some money, but increase your investment long term. And the short version, NAND flash prices are up like crazy since the start of last year. AI data centers are just eating up all the supply. Drives we used to buy for $270 are sitting around $600 to $800. Any and all pre-built portable SSDs are getting absolutely destroyed right now price-wise. So in that video, I argue the smart move right now is to bring your own M.2 NVMe SSD and pair it with a great enclosure. What used to just be a cool alternative, at least for myself, now it's just the smarter way to go about it in a lot of cases. Which leaves one question, which enclosure? That's where the ORICO X50 comes in. ORICO pitches 3 important things when it comes to the X50, and that it has a sleek build, fast Thunderbolt 5 speed, and silent cooling. Now, quick note before I dive in, ORICO did send me this enclosure to test, but know that all my thoughts and opinions in this video are my own. There was no script approval or video preview before going live, so everything you're about to hear is my honest take, because I only do reviews like this on products I actually find beneficial. So the fact that you're seeing this means I like it, and I think you will too. Now, let's talk about the design. It's a CNC aluminum unibody that's pocket-sized, and it's about around the size of a deck of cards. The drive does require a screwdriver, which it comes with, to unscrew the bottom of the plate and to pop it open. Another screw is then required to lock the NVMe drive in place. It's important to note that the X50 only takes 2280 sized NVMe drives, where others can support various sizes. But once you slide and screw in your M.2, rescrew the bottom plate, and then you're good to go. This should literally only take about a minute or two to install. Super simple. You can grab one without an SSD for $239, but right now it's actually on sale for $199. There is a 1 terabyte pre-installed option if you don't want to bring your own drive. Now let's talk about the speed. This is a Thunderbolt 5 enclosure, which means it gets up to 80 gigabits per second data transfer. I always run my real world tests whenever I get a new hard drive or enclosure like this. And in my tests, I use the Blackmagic Disk Speed Test app, and I have the X50 plugged into my MacBook Pro M4 Max with the official ORICO Thunderbolt 5 cable that came with the enclosure. And I'm getting about 4,500 to 4,600 write and around 5,600 read, which is pretty standard from other Thunderbolt 5 tests that I've done. Now, one catch worth knowing, to get those Thunderbolt 5 speeds, you need a Thunderbolt 5 host, which if you're like me, it means an M4 Pro, MacBook Pro, or Mac Mini, or MacBook Pro M4 Max, or some newer Windows Creator laptops have them. Now, what's cool is if you're on Thunderbolt 4, the X50 still works. It just throttles down to the 40 gigabits a second, which is still very fast. So we got it. It's sleek, it's fast. Now, they say that it's silent. So we got to talk about how the X5 handles heat. It has a 4-layer cooling system, no fans or power draw, but still stays nearly silent. It uses an ice core hydrofilm, which creates 10 times faster heat absorption and dissipation. It has a microfin design that expands thermal surface area around 200%. The CNC aluminum unibody provides professional grade heat conduction. And then there's the masterclass thermal paste, which has ultra low resistance for instant cooling. And those are all facts that I came up with myself. I didn't just read that off of their website. That all sounds nice, but how does it actually hold up in a real workflow? So as I mentioned, I edit on a MacBook Pro M4 Max, so I tested this with the kind of footage I actually deal with. Most of the time it's red raw, and as I expected, the editing was smooth, even on heavier timelines with a lot of raw 6K clips with color grades and DaVinci Resolve. So yeah, no surprise there. Transfer speeds were as expected, quick and fast, especially for these large files. So overall, the enclosure stays pretty lukewarm at most. Even after a full day of editing, keeping my editor open overnight for multiple nights, I was really happy with this result. But I did want to stress test just to see how far I could push it. And the way I did that was through using Claude, or Claude Code specifically. If you're unfamiliar with Claude in a super non-nerdy way, it's essentially an AI app, kind of like ChatGPT or Gemini. And they have an app for the Mac, and I use their coding feature called Claude Code. And within it, I run an editing pipeline where I essentially let Claude do its own automated editing of a project that's on the enclosure. But what I do is I don't let it finish the pipeline. So it kind of just sits there. And then I let that sit overnight. And this is where it tends to put a lot of stress on the drive and enclosure because essentially it doesn't get a break. Don't recommend doing this, by the way, because by doing this, it does cause the enclosure to get significantly hotter to the touch because it's under a lot of stress and you're not giving it a break to chill. But even doing that, it never got dangerously hot, but definitely uncomfortable to the touch. Now, no normal person will be doing this or editing in that way. So it was just more of a test to see how far I could push things. So I could confidently say, even under the most strenuous conditions, this is how hot it will get. So for normal work and editing, it keeps the heat in check very well. I also noticed after the stress test, it did affect the write speed, dropping it almost all the way down to 3,500 megabytes a second. So the amount of stress the drive and enclosure take can also affect speed. Now here's the thing nobody really talks about with these enclosures. A pre-built portable SSD, your Samsung T7, your SanDisk Extremes, whatever, they're sealed. The drive, the controller, the case, all in one unit. When the controller becomes the bottleneck, or the next generation of NVMe drops, or you find a deal on a faster drive, you have to buy a whole new portable SSD. With the X50, you just upgrade the M.2 inside. And chances are the first M.2 drive that you got is already fast enough. And then with the enclosure, the aluminum, the cooling, the cable, the Thunderbolt 5 controller, all of it stays because the enclosure isn't your storage, it's just the housing. And that's the part of this whole thing that doesn't show up on the spec sheet. Now, in comparison, the closest direct competitor I have that I can test this with against is the Acasis Thunderbolt 5 enclosure. And design-wise, they're about the same size. The Acasis doesn't feel and isn't as durable. In hand, the X50 definitely feels more premium. The Acasis also has a fan built in, which does make noise. The X50 doesn't. Both of them perform really well, getting around the same read and write speeds. So performance-wise, there won't be a lot of difference between these or even other brands for that matter. So the important thing to gauge when comparing enclosures is going to be more about the design and specific use cases. Is it durable enough? How does it handle heat? What NVMe drives does it support? So with that, talked about all the cool things about this enclosure, here are two important issues, or more so annoyances that at least for me, that you should know before looking in or buying the X50. One, pointing out again, it's M.2 2280 only. And that's a big deal because a part of the enclosures and why I've been pitching these for so long is their flexibility. And if you're somebody that already has these types of drives from whether you built your own PC, you got a Steam Deck, you're gaming, whatever, chances are you already have these types of drives laying around. And if you have an extra one, you now can just utilize that as an extra SSD. And limiting the size, it just makes things a little bit more annoying to deal with. And other enclosures, including the Acasis, support all the way down to 2230. So they have that flexibility. And flexibility is even more key now because of the current SSD crisis we find ourselves in. The second issue, it isn't toolless. And a lot of enclosures are, especially a lot of ones that I've dealt with. So I've gotten used to the toolless lifestyle when it comes to this. So you will have to keep track of the screwdriver or have one that's the same size around you when it's time to take out or swap the SSD. And this has already been a little annoying for me since I use and test different enclosures regularly. The Acasis or even my Zyke drive, which is a Thunderbolt 4 enclosure, for example, their hoods just pop open and they use a rubber stopper to keep the drive in place. Now, I'm sure the screws make things more secure, but I will say it's just nice, not having to deal with that stuff. So who's this enclosure actually for? I'd say definitely look into the X50 if you're on a Thunderbolt 5 computer and want or need faster speed. And if you care about basically complete silent operation. This is huge, especially if you're looking to upgrade from the traditional SSDs. Also, if you travel a lot and need something fast, but also durable and, looks cool. The X50 is that. Or if you just need an alternative way to get additional storage during this SSD crisis, you can just get more bang for your buck. If you're on Thunderbolt 5 and you want fast, silent, sleek, portable storage, this is the one to get, and this is the one I'm currently using. So if you're interested to know more about the X50 to see if it makes sense for your workflow, hit the link in my description and try to take advantage of the sale price while you can. And that's it for this video. If you found it helpful, please like and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. And until next time, I'll catch y'all later.